Hello friends and welcome to another video lesson from DBOS Talks. If you haven't subscribed yet, please click subscribe and click the bell so that you can be notified of new uploads. This video is part of the playlist called SQL Mistakes to Avoid, and here we'll learn about Cartesian Join, otherwise known as cross join. We only need a Cartesian join for a special purpose, but for the usual situations wherein we are joining two or more tables, we want to avoid making a Cartesian join because it will result to an incorrect number of data than what we expected. Okay, let's look at a sample table called geocodes. Okay, so geographical codes. If I execute this query, okay, it will return us the contents, the data in this table. And then if we wanted to count the number of rows of this in this table, and you're using SQL Developer, you just right click on the grid and then you click on count rows. It gives you 72 rows, so meaning this table in total contains 72 rows of data. Okay, so if you don't have SQL Developer, this GUI, then you can use this select statement, select count asterisk from geocodes. It will also give you the count of the table, raw count. So it's 72, also the same as the one we did using the SQL Developer. Okay. Now let's look at a second table called city time. I'll query this, I'll run this query. And it returned to me the data of the contents of this table, okay? And if we want, again, to know the count of this table, you just right-click on the grid and then click on count rows. It tells me it has 24 rows. Okay, again, if you don't have SQL Developer, then you can do a select count asterisk from the table name. Okay, so that's simple. Now, let's try to query these two tables together in a single select statement and see, and you will learn from what I mean by Cartesian join. So select asterisk from geocodes, the first table, comma, city time, the second table. Okay, so I'm trying to do a join. This is one of the possible mistake that can be made by somebody relatively new to SQL. Okay, so I'm just showing you how to avoid it. Okay, so if I execute this query, then it doesn't seem like there's something wrong. There's no error, so the data has been returned. Nothing seems to be wrong up to this point. For somebody relatively new to SQL, this will go unnoticed because there was no error. When in fact, something is terribly wrong with the query, unless you were really intentionally trying to make a Cartesian join. Okay, but if you have no plans of having a Cartesian join, then this is wrong. So if we look at the count of the first table, geocodes, it has 72 rows. The second table, city time, has 24 rows. Now this query mentioning the two tables must have a row count which should not be so far away from any of these. Even if we assume what's known as a one-to-many relationship. Okay, so now let's count this result set. This is a result of this query, remember. So if I do here, I click here, right click, count rows. It gives me 1,728 rows, which is quite a big jump if you will notice, as compared to the count of these two tables here. In fact, what you are looking at now is a Cartesian join. It's the result of a Cartesian join. That's why it resulted to this very big jump in row count. Okay, so what a Cartesian join does is it multiplies the row count of one table by multiplying it by the row count of the other table. Okay, so it's what's happening here actually 72 times 24. Okay, so if you want to prove that and you don't have a calculator, it is okay. You can use SQL. I will just hard code this 72, which is this, times is asterisk. It's the operator in multiplication. in SQL times 24. So select 72 times 24. I will give it an alias, maybe prod, and then from the table name. Okay. So when I execute that, it gives me 1728, 1728. This is not a coincidence that it's the same value as this. Simply because this select statement returned, is a Cartesian join. So without giving a join condition there, the SQL engine is just interpreting it like this is what you wanted in the first place. So it's just multiplying the number of rows here times the number of rows here. And that's why it's a big number, 1728. Okay. So unless I said that was your intention, then this is an incorrect way of joining the tables. So even if there's a one-to-many relationship between this table and this table, it shouldn't result to such just a huge jump in terms of row count. So how do we fix this? The proper way is to join the two tables in this manner. Okay. So what you do is when you try to join two or more tables in SQL, in a select statement, you must identify the column or columns which are the ones that relate those two tables. In our DBMS technologies, we hear of primary key constraint, foreign key constraint, primary key column or columns, and then foreign key column or columns. Okay, those are being used to join tables. In this case, the column called city code exists in both tables, and we're going to use that to join these two tables. Okay, so let's look at the syntax. Select asterisk from geocodes G, this is a table alias, comma, city time C, C is also a table alias. You give it an alias as a nickname, so I can give it any kind of nickname or alias, but it's preferred if you want to, it's preferred to just give it a one-letter alias, which is close to, in my case, this table starts with G, so I give it a G, okay? Where G.city code equals C.city code. Okay, the purpose of the alias here is to distinguish the columns, because the column city code exists in both tables, the same name, same data type. So to distinguish, it's not just for your visual identification, but it's more for the SQL engine to perform better, so that it doesn't have to guess. Okay, you don't leave the guesswork to the engine. You explicitly identify that this column city code is the one which belongs to geocodes, while this C.city code is the column which belongs to the table code city time. Okay, now when we execute this, which has now a proper join between the two tables, then it looks as if it's just normal like our previous query. But when you do a right click and do a count of this query of the result set, it's giving us, instead of the 1728, it's only giving us 24 rows, which is the correct one. Okay, 24 rows. So you can see the big difference between this Cartesian join, which is giving us a big number, exactly because it is a Cartesian join, which is a product of multiplying this number of rows times this number of rows, and this, which is the proper join, and it's giving us the correct number of records. So this query will only return to me the records or rows of data wherein the city code value is matching between the two tables, geocodes and city time. Okay, so the takeaway from this video is that when you use multiple tables in a single select statement, do not leave it to guesswork. Do not leave it to Cartesian join. Ensure that they're properly joined using the proper columns that are that relate to the two tables. Okay, the two or more tables. Otherwise, this will result to a Cartesian join, which gives us an incorrect number of data. Okay, so I hope you learned something new from this video, which is focusing on or delving into Cartesian join, otherwise known as cross join. Okay, if you haven't subscribed yet, please click subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.